Hi, my name is Chris Kyle, and I'm going to be talking to you today about why Chinese kids can't go to international school. Now, that being said, if you knew me, you might say, hmm, Chris, aren't you an international teacher? Wouldn't that make your job illegal? Not necessarily. To help us better understand this subject, I've asked this guy to help us out.
Hi, my name is Enrico Piccinini. I'm currently the International Middle and High School principal at a place called Xiwai International School in Shanghai, China. I'm responsible for approximately 60 staff there, Chinese and Western, and I've been in education for 10 years.
So that means you work for an international school?
Yes and no. CY International School is called International School, but it's actually a bilingual school. The vast majority of our learners are Chinese nationals, speak Chinese as their mother tongue, but we are trying to give them a bilingual curriculum and prepare them for university overseas.
Okay, so what is a bilingual school?
For me, a bilingual school, the most important thing is it's not using the established curriculum of any one country, and it uses two different languages for instruction. In our high school, which is where I spend most of my time, what that means is we're teaching a lot of courses in English to prepare students for studying in English-speaking countries, but they also retain a strong Chinese component there, mandatory Chinese courses, Chinese language, Chinese history, Chinese geography, Chinese politics, and so forth that they also have to take. So they're learning in both languages, and they're basically dealing in two languages every day.
Okay, and why do you go through all of this? Why don't you just make it an international school?
Various reasons. First of all, I don't own the school, so it's not my call to make. But in China, the situation in China today, particularly, you basically have two kinds of schools if we're talking about schools where English is taught and foreign teachers are working. You have straight up international schools. These are for expats, they're for foreign passport holders. They more or less can teach what they want because they're not teaching Chinese nationals. Any school that enrolls Chinese nationals is called a bilingual school. So we have to meet certain Chinese government requirements in order to be allowed to have that status. To really understand what he was talking about, we're going to have to look at a few laws, specifically Article 3 of China's education laws. Article 3 reads, in developing the socialist educational undertakings, the state shall uphold Marxism, Leninism, Mao Zedong thought, and the theories of constructing socialism with Chinese characteristics as directives and comply with the basic principles of the Constitution. What this means is that everything in Chinese education has to mesh with communist philosophy, specifically the communist philosophy of Mao Zedong. The second law we're going to be looking at is Article 12, which states the Chinese language, both oral and written, shall be the basic oral and written language for education in schools and other educational institutions. Schools, or other educational institutions, which mainly consist of students from minority nationalities, may use in education the language of the respective nationality or the native language commonly adopted in that region. Schools and other educational institutions shall, in their education activities, popularize the nationally common spoken Chinese and the standard written characters. These laws, in combination, effectively ban international schools, which offer immersive environments for language learning and offer global perspectives. Bilingual schools have arisen to give Chinese local students the opportunity to experience an international style of education. But because of these laws, these students are a bit restricted. They must learn their core subjects in their native language, which will be the core of their education, and teachers are restricted to only teaching things that are in line with Chinese philosophy, specifically Chinese communist philosophy. History teachers are specifically affected by Article 3 because they're restricted to presenting a Chinese, communist Chinese perspective on a lot of what they're teaching. Oftentimes, this can lead to censorship. For example, there are three major historical topics that are nearly completely banned
in Chinese education. If you're a Chinese history teacher here, a foreign teacher, you will be restricted from covering these topics. They are the three T's: Tiananmen, Taiwan, and Tibet. This can also affect teachers in other ways, for example, through scheduling. Oftentimes, teachers aren't scheduled with enough time for their subject because room in the schedule needs to be made for core subjects. The quality of students in bilingual classrooms is also affected because a lot of the top-end students who are from other countries and speak English as their own language often go to these international schools, whereas Chinese locals who have less exposure to English are relegated to the bilingual school. So, where do all of these laws come from? Historically, these laws originated in the Cultural Revolution of the 1960s and were intended to protect Chinese cultural identity and prevent the decay of the communist ideals fought for in the overthrow of the prior regime. Today, though, there is division on the subject. Metropolitan cities in China, like Shanghai, have a growing demand for international education, as it's seen as better here. They think that international schools are more effective than local schools. Some parents today will even go abroad to give birth so that their children can legally attend true international schools. On the opposing side are the Communist Party members who believe that both international schools and bilingual schools dilute Chinese national identity. As a teacher myself, I believe students should have access to a multitude of perspectives. Hopefully, in the coming decades of increased globalization, we'll see some changes to these laws. Fingers crossed. Thank you, guys.